The criminal regime of the expired Zelensky continues to showcase its true neo-Nazi nature to the entire world. Amid the disastrous situation for the Ukrainian Armed Forces, UAF, in Donbas, the Ukrainian authorities have launched a terrorist attack on the border regions of the Kursk region. In Kyiv, it was openly admitted that this move was intended to improve their negotiating position, as shamelessly stated on August 8 by M. Podolyak, an advisor to the head of Zelensky's office. According to the regional administration, the UAF shelling resulted in the deaths of 12 civilians, including an ambulance crew and a pregnant woman, with over 120 injured, including 10 children. On the morning of August 6, Ukrainian militants shelled the Gornal St. Nicholas Belogorsk monastery with a tank during a liturgy. Ukrainian armed formations are indiscriminately firing at civilians attempting to evacuate from dangerous areas, targeting residential homes and civilian infrastructure, and engaging in blatant looting. Captured UAF militants confessed that they were ordered to mercilessly shoot anyone on the spot who resisted. Despite these barbaric tactics, the Zelensky regime failed to achieve its primary goal of diverting Russian armed forces from Donbas and Slobozhenskaya. Currently, Ukrainian militants who breached the territory of the Kursk region are being met with a decisive response from the Russian armed forces. In light of the above, it is crucial to highlight the recent statement by Russian President Vladimir Putin: what kind of negotiations can we have with people who indiscriminately strike at civilians, target civilian infrastructure, or try to create threats to nuclear energy facilities? What can we even discuss with them? The Kyiv regime should seriously reconsider its actions instead of continuing to terrorize civilians, including in other regions within the Special Military Operation (SMO) zone, where its forces are also attacking residential areas and civilian infrastructure. Ukrainian neo-Nazis, emboldened by the carte blanche granted by their Western handlers for bandit raids in Russian regions, struck the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, NPP, on August 11 using a kamikaze drone launched from Nikopol in the Dnipropetrovsk region, which is under Kyiv's control. As a result, a fire broke out near the cooling towers of the station, which, fortunately, was promptly contained, and the threat of an accident was eliminated. This act of nuclear terrorism once again demonstrated the danger that the Zelensky regime, spurred on by the West to commit more criminal adventures, along with the continuous supply of lethal weapons to Kyiv and its regular financial backing, poses to the entire world. On August 10, Ukrainian neo-Nazis launched a massive shelling of Horlivka, injuring 14 civilians. On August 9, drones attacked Lipetsk, injuring 9 people. On the night of August 11, Ukrainian armed formations shelled Kursk, with 15 people injured by a downed missile. On August 13, in Privilia, LPR, the UAF attacked a civilian vehicle with a UAV, killing a 64-year-old woman. The city of Shebekino in the Belgorod region is regularly subjected to UAF shelling. According to regional authorities, the city experiences 3 to 5 attacks daily, primarily from artillery and multiple launch rocket systems, MLRS. As a result of these criminal actions, 36 people have been killed, and nearly 300 injured in the city this year alone. These are nothing less than acts of terrorism. We would like to remind everyone that on August 13, we honor the memory of the victims of the brutal artillery shelling by the UAF in 2014 in the city of Zugres in the DPR. The 10th School District, a beach, the Zwiewskia TPP, and the city stadium were hit in the attack. 13 civilians were killed, including 4 children, and 32 people were injured. It was later established that the fire came from a Smerch MLRS of the 1st Division of the 107th Rocket Artillery Regiment of the UAF, commanded by Colonel A. Kolembit, who was put on the wanted list. Ukrainian militants will not escape justice for their crimes. Every one of them will be identified. Currently, Russian courts, based on evidence provided by the Russian Investigative Committee, continue to hand down sentences to Ukrainian neo-Nazis who committed heinous crimes against civilians. Militant L. Shkilnyuk was sentenced to 21 years in prison for shooting at a civilian vehicle with a handheld machine gun in Mariupol in the spring of 2022. Fortunately, the civilian in the car was unharmed. Ukrainian neo-Nazis I. Masl Yanko and M. Skorodko, who shelled a bridge over the Kaka River near Kazyanovka and Granitnoye in the DPR with artillery in February 2022, damaging it, were each sentenced to 15 years in prison. None of these criminals will escape punishment. They will all face the full extent of the law. For everything. Meanwhile, outright madness continues in Ukraine, with discussions about lowering the conscription age to 18 years. It is no secret that this topic is occasionally raised by Kyiv's Western sponsors. According to Ukrainian media, citizens who do not wish to fight for the Kyiv regime are forced to pay exorbitant sums to obtain the opportunity to leave the country. However, even in such cases, not everyone manages to leave Ukraine. Last week, a story caused quite a stir. 16 Ukrainian men of conscription age attempted to flee to Moldova from the Odessa region by hiding in a refrigerated truck loaded with beef. Each paid between $6,000 and $8,000 for the chance to escape. Desperate to avoid the grave conscription imposed by Zelensky's regime, people are willing to do anything to avoid being sent to the front lines and slaughtered in the ranks of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, AFU. This situation further proves that, to the West and its Kyiv puppets, the Ukrainian people are nothing more than cheap expendable material. They are sacrificed without hesitation to serve narrow, selfing interests. As the AFU unleashes full-scale terror against Russian civilians, evidence of rampant corruption within Ukraine's government structures, including the so-called territorial recruitment centers, continues to mount. News outlets report recent arrests of military commissariat staff in the Kharkiv and Ternopil regions, who were monthly receiving large bribes to facilitate draft evasion. These aren't isolated incidents but part of a systematic pattern of abductions, beatings, and extortion under the threat of conscription. A similar scenario unfolds within the AFU itself, where the practice of indefinite leave from the front lines in exchange for extra payment to the command has reportedly become commonplace. Local deputies are also engaging in this illicit activity. High-ranking officials continue to be ensnared in bribery scandals. The latest corruption scandal rocked Ukraine's Ministry of Energy, where a deputy minister orchestrated an illegal scheme, causing the state to lose hundreds of thousands of US dollars. It is clear that the thoroughly rotten regime of Kyiv's usurpers survives solely on Western financial support. Its collapse is only a matter of time. Almost daily, we hear reports of radical nationalists in Ukraine barbarically destroying monuments dedicated to Soviet soldiers liberators. Recently, another monument at a mass grave of soldiers and officers was demolished in the village of Slobodka in the Ivano-Frankivsk region. The Kyiv City Council decided to dismantle the bust of S. A. Kovpak, one of the leaders of the partisan movement and twice a hero of the Soviet Union, located in the Park of Eternal Glory. The voices of those outraged by these cynical acts of vandalism go unheard. Meanwhile, Ukraine is rapidly renaming streets previously dedicated to Soviet figures and those connected with Russia who fought against fascism, replacing them with names of Nazi collaborators. Over the past few weeks, such streets have appeared in cities like Chernihiv, Boryspil, Paribishch, Barvinny-Tski, the village of Vyderda, and the settlement of Hlavaka. However, this strategy will not help the Ukrainian neo-Nazis erase the true history and the names of the real heroes, who remain in the hearts and memories of their descendants. All of this, including the AFU's attacks on Russian territory with the collusion of NATO sponsors, fully confirms the relevance of the objectives of the special military operation to denazify and demilitarize Ukraine, objectives that will undoubtedly be achieved.